October 29th, 2014, from Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. It was Game 7 of the World Series between the San Francisco Giants and the Kansas City Royals. And on the mound for Kansas City to start this game was Jeremy Guthrie. And on the mound for the Giants was Tim Hudson. But this game would see plenty of pitching changes for sure. But in the top of the first, Guthrie retired the Giants in order. And so now we headed to the bottom of the first, and Hudson would get Escobar to line out, but then he walked Aoki, but then Kane grounded into a fielder's choice, and Hosmer struck out. So after one, it was still knotted up at goose eggs, but in the top of the second, Pablo Sandoval was hit by a pitch, and then Hunter Pence got a single, and then Affeldt got a single, so the bases were juiced for Michael Morse, and he got a sac fly, and that brought in Pablo Sandoval as Kung Fu Panda came across home and scored the game's first run to put the Giants in the lead 1-0 over the Royals. Crawford then came to the plate and he got a sac fly, and that brought Hunter Pence in as Pence had tagged up on the earlier sac fly. So back-to-back sac flies, and now it was 2-0 San Francisco over Kansas City. Juan Perez then struck out, and we headed to the bottom of the second. Billy Butler then got a single, and Alex Gordon got the double that brought Billy Butler in, and it was now 2-1 as the Royals cut the Giants' lead in half. Salvador Perez was then hit by a pitch, and Mike Moustakas popped out. So now Omar Infante came to the plate. He got a sac fly. That brought in Gordon, and this game was now tied at 2 runs apiece in the second inning. Escobar then got a single, and now the Giants would make their first pitching change as they took Hudson out, as he didn't even make it through 2 innings, and here came Jeremy Affeldt, and Jeremy Affeldt was now on the mound, and he ended up getting Aoki to ground into a fielder's choice, and the second inning came to a close, but not after both teams were able to put 2 runs on the board. So after 2, the score was tied at 2 runs apiece between the Giants and the Royals. So now in the top of the third, Jeremy Guthrie would get Gregor Blanco to ground out, and then he struck out Joe Panik and Buster Posey. We now headed to the bottom of the third, and Jeremy Affeldt would let up a leadoff single to Lorenzo Cain, and then Eric Hosmer came to the plate. He hit into a double play, and then Billy Butler grounded out. So now, after 3, it was still tied up at 2 runs apiece between KC and San Fran. So now we're in the top of the fourth. Jeremy Guthrie still on the mound. Pablo Sandoval ended up getting an infield single, then Hunter Pence singled, and then Brandon Belt popped out, and then the Royals made another pitch. They made their first pitching change, so Guthrie was out. Herrera came in to pitch. He's on the mound. Michael Morse at the plate. Morse gets his single, comes through clutch, and here comes Kung Fu Panda to cross the plate for the second time in this game, and this gave the Giants a 3-2 lead, so they're now up by 1 run. Crawford then struck out, and Perez grounded out, and so we headed to the bottom of the fourth. Affeldt was still on the mound for the Giants. He got Gordon. He hit him by a pitch. Gordon's on first now. Perez comes to the plate. He hit into a double play. Moustakas then grounded out, and the fourth came to a close. But not after the Giants had put a run on the scoreboard in the top half of the fourth. So it was 3-2, Giants over the Royals after 4 innings. So now in the top of the fifth, Kelvin Herrera was still on the mound for Kansas City. He would set down the Giants in orders. He got Blanco out, Panik and Posey both struck out, and so now we headed to the bottom of the fifth. Madison Bumgarner now came in to relieve Jeremy Affeldt, so we had Mad Bum on the mound, and he has been as close to perfect throughout the World Series as there's ever been. And now he had to bring this game to a close as he came in the bottom of the fifth. Would he bring the game to a close? Time would tell. Omar Infante was the first batter that Bumgarner faced, and he got a single. So the first batter Bumgarner faced ended up getting a hit, and he was on base, and Escobar came to the plate. He then sacrificed Infante over to second. Then Aoki came up, and he ended up getting out. and then Kane struck out. So after 5, it was 3-2 as the Giants remained in the lead by 1 run over the Royals. So now in the top of the 6th, Herrera was still on the mound for Kansas City. He let up a leadoff single to Kung Fu Panda Pablo Sandoval, who was huge in this game. He came up very clutch. Hunter Pence then grounded into a double play, and then Brandon Belt got a single. So now Michael Morse came up, and he had been huge in this game. He already had 2 RBIs at this point, but then he struck out. So Morse strikes out, and we headed to the bottom of the 5th. Madison Bumgarner still on the mound for San Francisco, and he ended up setting down the Royals in order in the bottom of the 6th as he got Hosmer out, Butler, and Gordon. So now we headed to the top of the 7th, and it was still 3-2 as the Giants remained in the 1-run lead over Kansas City. Wade Davis then came in to pitch to relieve Herrera, and the first batter he saw was Crawford, and he struck him out. He then struck out the second batter he saw. That was Juan Perez, and then Gregorio Polanco grounded out, and we headed to the bottom of the 7th. Madison Bumgarner was still on the mound for San Francisco at this point as he was pitching amazing baseball, as he's been playing all season long, all throughout the season, 162 games, the wild card, the ALDS, the NLDS, the NLCS, and now the World Series. And after already having won 2 games in this series, here he was pitching in relief in Game 7. And in the bottom of the 7th inning, he got Salvador Perez to pop out, and then he got Moustakas to ground out, and then he got Infante striking out. So after 7, the score remained 3-2, San Francisco over Kansas City. Now in the top of the 8th, Wade Davis still on the mound for the Royals. He struck out Joe Panic. Then he got Posey to ground out. But then Kung Fu Panda Pablo Sandoval got a double. And now Hunter Pence came to the place, but he grounded out. So the Giants stranded a runner in scoring position. They were not able to pick up that insurance run. But Madison Bumgarner didn't need too much insurance as he had been next to perfect, as we mentioned earlier. In his last outing, he pitched a complete shutout. And that's what the Giants would need out of him in this game. Not a complete game, but they would need shutout baseball if they were to hold on to this lead. So now in the bottom of the 8th, Bumgarner would strike out Escobar. He then got Aoki to ground out, and he got Kane popping out. So now we headed to the 9th inning. So it was the final inning of the season if the Royals could not tie this game up, as they were down by just 1 run. But the Giants were up at the plate, and they had a chance to add some more runs. Greg Holland, the ace reliever for the Royals, came into the game, although it was not a save situation, but with needing to keep the game at a 1-run game, he was on the mound. The first batter he faced was Brandon Belt. He got him to ground out. He then struck out Michael Morse, who already had the 2 RBIs, but now he struck out twice in this game. Brandon Crawford then came to play, and he struck out as well. So Greg Holland did his job. He put the Royals in the position, but they would have to score a run against Madison Bumgarner, who has been lights out throughout the playoffs, and from what I understand has only let up 1 run in the last couple weeks. So now Bumgarner on the mound in the 9th. The Royals got 3 outs and need to score a run to bring it to extra innings and 2 runs to win the game. Eric Hosmer came to the plate, and he would strike out. So now Billy Butler came up, and he was fighting it off, but he popped up, and so now we were down to the last out as the Royals season and the Giants season would come to a close if the Royals did not score a run and if they got out. So now Alex Gordon is up at bat, and Alex Gordon hits a single, but there's an error on the play, and so Gordon keeps hustling around, and he made it all the way to third base. So Alex Gordon is on third base because of the error by Polanco, and the Royals are 90 feet away from tying this game up and extending the season and bringing it to extra innings. And now Salvador Perez comes to the plate, and Madison Bumgarner was feeding him a steady diet of high heat. He just kept going up and in, fastball, fastball, up and in, up and in. Some were strikes, some were balls. It came down to 2-2, and it was all high heat. And then on 2-2, 2 outs, Salvador Perez fouls off the pitch, and it's still alive. So now here it comes again. Salvador Perez fouls it up. He pops it up. It's in foul territory. Kung Fu Panda runs over. He's looking up in the air. And Kung Fu Panda makes the catch. And the Giants win the World Series. The Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant. The Giants have now won 3 World Series in 5 years, as they have placed themselves in the dynasty format of winning 3 out of 5. The Giants win this game. It went 7 games, an epic World Series, went as far as it could possibly go, came down to the wire, couldn't get any closer unless it had gone to extra innings, but going all the way the distance, 7 games, a 1-run ball game, and the Giants win the World Series in 7 games. And the win goes to Madison Bumgarner as he picks up his 3rd win of the World Series. And in this game, Bumgarner did not allow any earned runs. He only allowed 2 hits, and he struck out 4 batters. Guthrie ended up getting the loss. He pitched 3 1/3 innings. He allowed 3 earned runs and 4 hits, and he had 3 strikeouts. Herrera, Davis, and Holland all pitched excellent relief baseball for the Royals, but it was for naught, as they were not able to overcome that 1-run deficit. But those 3 guys all throughout the game did not let up any runs. Herrera pitched 2 2/3, Davis pitched 2 innings, and Holland pitched 1 inning. Jeremy Affeldt had an amazing performance in this game as well. He pitched 2 1/3 innings. He did not allow any earned runs. He only allowed 1 hit. Tim Hudson had started the game. He didn't really do bad per se. He pitched 1 2/3 and allowed 2 earned and 3 hits. He had a walk and a strikeout, but they did not want to give it a chance. They were like, hey, let's just stop the bleeding before it gets any worse. Even though you never know, Hudson, if he stayed in there, maybe he doesn't allow another run. But either way, Affeldt, an amazing performance. And then Bumgarner solidifies himself as one of the best pitchers ever in the history of the World Series throughout baseball. This guy is now a legend. He's definitely up there in the conversation as one of the best playoff pitchers of all time, for sure. In this game for the Giants, Kung Fu Panda, who made that final out, he was 3 for 3 in this game. He came across the plate twice, and he was the only Giant that had an extra base hit, as he had that double. Alex Gordon also had a double over there for Kansas City. He was 2 for 3. He had an RBI and a run. For the Giants, Michael Morse had those 2 RBIs. He was 1 for 3. He had that sac fly. He also struck out twice, but he came through very clutch in this game as the DH. So that's not his normal position. They don't have a DH in the National League, but one exciting series all the way down to the wire. And the Giants win this one with the final score, San Francisco 3, Kansas City 2.